Hi, Dr. Parul. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about why and how happiness is an inside job. So, just before getting into it, I'd like to quickly introduce you. You've been a psychiatrist for the last 30 years, whose focus is on positive psychology, which is obviously directly related to the topic we're covering today, and who covers rational emotional behavioral therapy in detail and trying to help your patients with that specific form of therapy in mind, correct?
That's true.
Okay, so yeah, let's just to quickly get started. Today's topic is obviously about happiness, right? So let's start by just talking about what exactly is happiness.
Hmm. So, Ahilya, the majority of people, majority of us, believe that happiness comes from material things, having a bigger car, having great gadgets, having a big house, taking vacations, and even small things like eating your favorite food or taking a hot shower, coming out from the snow or the rain. So much of it is it is happiness. Of course it makes you happy, and when another big thing is that you feel that when things go your way, then you are happy, you know and this is natural. This most many of us think like that. But the problem with this kind of happiness seeking, that it is more, I would call it pleasure, and it is something that the Greeks call hedonia. Even there is a Sanskrit word for it, which says laukik sukh. Laukik is worldly pleasure. So clearly, it depends on people. It depends on your circumstances. It depends on all events external to you to be happy. So, and then another thing about this is it's time bound. This pleasure, it's time bound. So say you are coming, you got caught in the rain and you come back and you take a hot shower. You take it for 5 minutes, you enjoy it. Take it maybe for 10 minutes, maybe still you enjoy it. Try taking it for 24 hours and it becomes a nightmare.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so say you, and this is the problem with pleasure, is that it fades quickly. It can become neutral. It can even turn something that you don't enjoy at all. um, Other big problem with pleasure is that there is this constant fear of losing it. So when you have $1 billion, not billion, let's say $1 million, you are afraid, oh, I might just lose it. So let me work harder and make it 2 million. And that way it just goes on and on, and fear and happiness do not go together.
no, that
I'll
makes
give
a
you a
lot
small.
of sense. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no. You can. So I was just going to give you an example that was given by the Dalai Lama when he spoke on this topic, and he says that, say there's this person, a man, who is moving into the 100th floor of a luxury apartment building, but if he's mentally disturbed, then the only thing he will seek is a window to jump out of.
Yeah.
No, he's actually said that. So this is the thing, that how important to have a happy frame of mind is. And clearly, getting material things is not, it's not the sort of, the most important thing to become happy.
So
You
then,
were saying something.
yeah, and that kind of brings me to my next question, which is it's well discussed that like material things don't make people happy, that people should seek happiness from themselves. But what does it actually mean to say that happiness is an inside job, or find happiness from within yourself? Like, what does that actually mean?
Right. So before I tell you why I'm calling this an inside job, let me tell you what I really mean by this happiness.
Hmm.
So what is this happiness that I'm talking about? It is, Aristotle called it the goal happiness, the goal of all goals. Means he gave it such an important thing, sort of place in life. So what is this? It's clearly not, we are not talking about pleasure here. What we are talking about is another Greek word which is called eudaimonia. One of my teachers, Matthew Ricard, he calls it inner flourishing. So it is basically a state of mind, a composed, contented state of mind which is at ease, which is not dependent on any outside stimuli to feel happy, and which has such a great well of happy feelings and sense of contentment that at times of adversity we can draw out of it. So and so this is now this thing, it's basically, it's not just one feeling, it's more like um, a group of different qualities. It's a cluster of different qualities that you can cultivate, and that's why I'm calling it an inside job. Because it's first of all, it comes from within you. It's your mind. The mind is a forerunner of all things. All things good and all things bad can come out of your mind.
Oh, that's
So
really true.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So because you're working on your mind, it becomes an inside thing, and because it's work, it's a job. That's why I call happiness an inside job.
and what would you say someone can do to like get to a point where they actually genuinely feel this kind of happiness?
Yeah. So this is really a work in progress. It's a journey. It's a path that you take, and every step of the way, it's a choice you make. And as I told you, that we develop certain qualities. And what are these qualities that we develop? That there's inner freedom, there is inner strength, there is a composure, a sense of balance, which we can call equanimity. There's compassion, there's gratitude, there's uh, it's basically something. It's all the finer qualities that you can think of. Altruism. So these are the qualities that you need to develop to gain this inner sense of peace. Now, I would basically say that it's initially it is what maybe on two fronts we can think about it. One is to develop your own sense of inner freedom. That is probably the first thing that you would do. Um, so let me tell you, it's our mind, right? And we all know that mind keeps yapping all the time. It's like, and most of this yapping is very judgmental. It's full of fear. There's anxiety there. There's self-doubt.
Very
there is there,
self-critical.
yeah, very self-critical. Yeah, our mind can be our biggest critic. So and we generate around 60 to 80,000 thoughts in a day.
Wow. And
Yeah, that's
something I
that's
did
the
not know, what a very large number.
no, it is that many thoughts we think. So how, when we keep a track on these thoughts, we need to train our mind. Otherwise these thoughts can completely form that loop, one after another, and that looping can just take us into an emotional storm.
Yeah.
So most people, what they do is, they try to either suppress these thoughts or push them away or try to distract themselves, and none of it works. You just try pushing and putting. It's like a plastic ball. If you try pressing a plastic ball into a bucket of
And
water,
like both.
it it comes back. Yes, exactly. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And if we do that with our thoughts, you know, that will come back with a vengeance. It's very difficult to push them away.
But then how would you say one can, change these thoughts, or even like how would you say one can even pick up that these thoughts are coming? Like say I I want to start working out, but I've never worked out before. So then I tell myself that, oh no, if I go to the gym today, because I've never worked out before, I'm going to make a fool of myself. So I can't go to the gym because everyone goes to the gym. Everyone's going to watch me make a fool of myself. And then it's like a negative loop that just
Yeah.
keeps spiraling, right? So at what point do you break it? And how do you even catch yourself in that thought to change it?
Excellent question. So, what is really required is a lot of kindness, and we can be our best friends. My REBT teacher used to say that there's only one person in this world that you can rely on to give you the love and the kindness that you deserve, and that's yourself. So always remember to be kind to yourself. So when you get, okay, so how do you deal with these thoughts? There is an acronym for this. I call it, it's not mine. I got it from another meditation teacher, but it is called Tara Brach, I forget the name. So it's called RAIN, RAIN. So what you do, yeah, so R stands for recognize. So most of the times, uh, as you told, you gave this example of your gym, wanting to start gym experience. What happens is that all these thoughts are so automatic. It's like pressing a switch and the light coming on. So they are so automatic that you suddenly like, I'm not going to the gym. But why, what, where, all that is so automatic, So the first step is to recognize the thoughts.
Right.
I am getting, this is the train. This is how I'm thinking. So recognize that. You rain, the A stands for allow. You allow them to be. As I told you, it is not possible to push them away or to distract yourself or to suppress thoughts. You let them be. You allow them to be. Okay? You can investigate, why am I feeling all this? So, there's this fear of making a fool of myself. So maybe that's the reason that I'm feeling like this. Yeah. And here comes the fourth step, which is called non-identification. Basically, non-identification, you do not identify with these thoughts.
But how would
Your mind.
so
Yeah, I'll tell you.
sorry to interrupt.
You are
I'm
telling me
so curious to understand how would if you're having these thoughts about yourself, right? Like how do you disassociate yourself from that perceived identity of yourself?
it's excellent, but I tell you, thoughts are 60,000 to 80,000 in 24 hours. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Are you bringing those thoughts? Are you actually saying, oh, I'm going to think like this now? Do you own the thoughts? You take ownership of the thoughts after you've had them. It's not like you have, let me give you an example, an analogy. It's like, when you open your eyes, what do you see ahead in front of you? Like, I can see certain things behind you. I can see Ahilya. I can see a door with a lovely, semicircle and yellow glass there. I can see a lamp. I can see a beautiful book case or, a cupboard. So I can see a lot of things there. Yeah. But I can't say, oh, I'm just not going to see that door. It's not possible. It's there in my sight and I'm going to see it. I can let it be. I may not give it importance, but it is there. If you can employ the same thing for your thoughts, you recognize the thoughts. Nobody, Ahilya, actually, wants to be unhappy. You tell me, if you had a lecture or a Zoom talk on how should I be unhappy, or how can I torture myself, how many people would see it?
Not too many would be very interested in it for sure. I don't know how many people would see it, but
Yeah.
definitely not too much interest in how to be unhappy for sure. No, I see your point. It's like recognizing that it exists, acknowledging that it exists, but telling yourself that that's just a door and not me, and it's different from me.
Yeah, it's there. It's my fear. I'm
Mm,
afraid. Yeah, that's the investigation part. And I
right.
let it be kind to myself, and I say, okay, I know how important exercise is for me, so I will go. I let these thoughts be. You don't fight with them, you don't argue with them, you just let them be. And you don't identify with them. So you are not only your thoughts, you are a lot of other things.
No,
And
that's definitely very fair and very true. But is there
okay,
other things we can do that make us more in control of our mind or of our thoughts? So for instance, how I mean it is, everyone says, get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, it'll help you think better. Drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day, it's gonna help everything. um,
yeah, it's true.
like some very
So,
generic things that people say, and we take it for granted, I think. But in terms of just being able to control your mind, have some kind of focus, or like really sticking to
now
it.
the first thing is, my dear, you do not control your mind. You train your mind.
Okay.
Okay, so you have obviously graduated. You have studied for 10 years in a school. Then you've studied 2 years of high school, junior college or high school. Then you did your graduation. You study for 15 to 16 years, and then you reach a level of proficiency in whatever you have studied. Correct?
Yeah.
If somebody plays a musical instrument, they don't get it at the first time. It takes years of practice to learn how to play something, a guitar, whatever. In the same way, by what mystery do we think that our minds can, be perfectly trained and will do what we want it to do? We
Without
train it.
training it. True.
We do not control it. See, I told you kindness is very important. We be kind, we be loving, and we train it. And we train it step by step by step. Now, you asked me, what do you do about these thoughts, right?
I was going to
Okay,
exactly
let me.
say, like, what do you do to train your mind?
I- I'm going a little away from our topic, but okay, let's do it. So, it's like when you want to, if you love gardening, and if you want to have a beautiful garden, what do? You, even if you plant flowers, lovely, beautiful, colorful flowers, but if you do not pluck the weeds out, your flowers will not have, your garden will not be beautiful.
Hmm.
So it's the same thing with our mind. If we want a beautiful mind, we need to understand that there are some thoughts that are very unwholesome, that are, not conducive to our happiness. So we recognize those thoughts and we let them be, we let them go. We do not give them importance. We try to put them, we let them be. We don't let these unwholesome thoughts take over us.
So,
Then we try to substitute. Okay, let me finish. We try to substitute this unwholesome thoughts with wholesome thoughts. Now, what do I mean by wholesome thoughts? These are thoughts that, you know, mm, make us happier, more free, less anxious, less unhappy, people. Okay, more compassionate, more loving, whatever, all those good qualities. So those are the flowers that we, uh, cultivate. Okay, the
mhm.
beautiful flowers that we plant. Hmm? And then we need to selectively water these plants, see that they get good sunlight, see that they have good soil, and then they bloom. So we effectively, change the landscape of our mind, the inner landscape, from something that is unwholesome to something that's wholesome. You had a question. Tell me, what
No,
did you?
it was more of a, I want to understand if I wanted to know if I've understood this properly. It's like noting a thought. So saying, I'm having this negative thought about working out, and I'm acknowledging that I'm having this thought, and then I'm reframing it, saying it's okay if people judge me today because it's the first time I'm going to the gym, and I can tell
Yeah.
everyone this, and therefore going and managing to like get through it so that tomorrow it gets a little bit easier.
Mhm.
Would you say that's how you can do it?
Excellent. Yes. And you can tell yourself that every journey begins with the first step. So
Yeah.
let me just begin it. Yeah. Ultimately, it's good for me. So, that's excellent. You got it. That's how we do it. That's that's how we change the inner landscape. Okay. And this we really this is the first step to be free. So what do I mean by inner freedom? I mean that we are not slaves of our thoughts.
Mm.
They are there, we know they are there, but we train our mind so that we don't become slaves of these thoughts.
But then would you say this means that if we train our minds enough, should we assume we have or can ever train it to the point where we don't feel sadness, we don't feel anger, we don't feel uh, the negativity that is looming, so to speak, and that we're only positive, we're only happy, we're only you know
that, that happens only in your dreams. So we are not living in a perfect utopia. Okay. um, it's not possible. So okay, let me tell you something. Say you see a terrible accident. Okay.
Mhm.
And or you hear about some great really bad massacre taking place somewhere, people suffering. Will that not make you sad?
It would.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But yeah, but that sadness is necessary. But if it throws you into despair, and you are like, I had one patient who went into severe depression when Lady Diana died. uh, the queen, Prince Charles' wife. I don't know if you were born there or not, but you must have heard of that. So my point is, it shouldn't. Any event in your life, in the life, cannot throw you in such a big deep state of despair that you're not able to act. A certain amount of sadness. You won't be human if you don't feel sad at sad things that happen around you. Yeah.
Of course.
But if that can spur you on to action, if you develop that empathy and then act compassionately, so that you can help people to get out of their unhappiness,
Hmm.
or their improve their situation slightly. Now let me take the example of you girls. Okay. I was very impressed when I spoke to you the first time,
Thank you.
because the mission, yeah, the mission that you have, the vision that you have for your work, it it is more of a compassionate nature. It is empathetic. Like, you know how mental journey can be difficult. You know how it's sometimes you can get into the wrong hands, and the mind is a very important thing,
Mm-hmm.
because you're being completely vulnerable when you open yourself to a doctor,
Yeah,
especially psychiatrist. And you need to have the right people, So this mission that you have of connecting, people who need help to the ones that you trust can give help,
yeah,
that has born out of your need to do something, out of your own vulnerability, sort of, not out of it, but conquering your own vulnerability.
no,
So
definitely.
this quality. Now there was, I was hearing, there was this some person, I forget his name, Brian something, who had started at a very small scale to help the senior citizens of the US to during this COVID times to get groceries and the essentials. And it has become such a big thing, such a big institution sort of, that they have branches. People came forward to help and
Yeah.
to volunteer. So they have started branches in Australia, in Europe, all over the place. So this is a kind of, so when you see an injustice, you have to feel angry. There's a story of Gandhiji that if he had not been angry at being thrown out of that compartment, when he was in South Africa, he would not have, we may not have got our freedom.
Yeah.
So so it's okay to be angry also, but you have to learn to place it at use it effectively. It's okay to be sad, but don't fall into despair. When you get angry, don't be completely hostile. Use the negative emotions also in such a way that you do good.
But now, what about people who are clinically depressed, who are incapable of, and I don't mean incapable because they simply don't have the ability, but because the way one understands depression is that it's a chemical imbalance, right? So what about when someone is clinically depressed or suffering from some kind of mental condition? How do they find this form of inner happiness, and what role does medication play in this?
I'll tell you. So being a psychiatrist, I do believe in medication. And the thing is that I'll tell you how I usually approach this. It's like, there's some people are so clinically depressed that they have an imbalance of the neurochemicals in their brain, and no amount of talking, no amount of self-talk, no amount of therapy, whether it is cognitive therapy or whether it is rational emotive therapy, no amount of therapy is going to get them out of that morass of depression. And we have to give medication. But it's, the example I would give is that, say you have a fracture tomorrow and you've broken a leg, and you go to the doctor and he sets your fracture and maybe, puts a rod or whatever, and then gets it into working condition, not yet, but, he sets the bones, but you can't still walk. So to walk, you will need crutches, maybe for a period of 6 months or
Right.
a month or whatever, till the bones heal. But once the bone heals, you have to give up your crutches. And the same thing it is with medication. So I believe very strongly that once a person is clinically depressed, he or she will need medication. We have to give a proper course of medicines, but they are only crutches.
So you wouldn't give
Ultimately,
something
the person
like
has. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I
that.
don't think that it is justified, not in depression. Okay, there are some mental illnesses that would require a very long treatment, some psychiatric conditions, but not depression or not anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's actually very good to know, because I think a lot of people have this like misconception that once you're on these antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications, that you can kind of stick through it. And if you look at like a lot of countries, America for instance, this creates a form of addiction that it becomes really difficult for people to find it within themselves. And so what about when someone's coming off of these medications? Is it as easy to, would you say they only come off when their minds are trained to the point that they will be able to, realize that that door is in front of you, but not necessarily um, identify with that door? Just to go to your earlier example.
Okay, so the thing is that I'm the one who decides when the people when the patients are strong enough to come out of medicines, when they can, and we taper the dose very slowly. So they would be strong enough to, and It's a record in my 30 years of my practice. My patients have not come again for depression. So it's like, you teach them how to walk without crutches. See, it's our thinking. There is this one phrase that says that as you think, so you speak. As you speak, so you act. And as you act, so you become.
Yeah.
People who are prone to depression, they sort of, have this negative loop of thinking, which if usually, it's the obsessive people who get more depressed. If you look at personalities, anyway, let's talk for another day, topic for another day. But usually it is. So when people, so if we can teach them, how to catch those thought processes, and how to not let it affect their inner peace, their inner happiness, then we would have done a good job. And it is possible.
I think that's very good to know. I think it also breaks a lot of myths that are out there. So, to quickly summarize, to see if I've gathered the main points of this, people should learn how to be happy by recognizing the thoughts they're having, allowing themselves to have these thoughts, investigate within themselves why these thoughts exist and why they're having these thoughts, and then learn to disassociate themselves so they don't identify themselves with these
Yeah,
specific thoughts.
excellent.
Yeah.
Understand the thought to be an impersonal process. Sometimes most of the times, these thoughts, they come automatically without invitation. So if we have not invited the thoughts, we do not. There's a lovely example for this. So when you invite guests to your house, you offer them tea and coffee and all sorts of things, food and all. And it's a, if they do not take it, right, then it's something that remains with you.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically these thoughts are not come to you by invitation, and you don't have to acknowledge that, you need to give them all sorts of things,
That
give them importance,
makes sense.
basically. Okay.
No,
All
definitely,
right.
that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's also just good to know that, we can train our minds to the point where we can realize that it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel
Yeah.
angry, it's okay to feel a whole bunch of negative emotions without necessarily going down a spiral of only
Plunging into
negativity.
despair.
Yeah,
Without plunging into despair.
exactly. Wow, thank you so much for today. It's been a really
One minute.
lovely talk.
We haven't spoken the other half of it. As I told you, they were in two fronts, right? So there is also the other qualities that we need to understand and need to develop. And these qualities that I told you depend on interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
So, like say if I'm having this cup of tea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is not something that has just come to me. There is a lot of interdependence. That cup has gone through a big process. Somebody has manufactured it, somebody has brought it to the shop. From the shop I got it as a gift from somewhere. Then the tea in it has come from various places. Somebody has made that tea and given it to me, right? So there is a lot of, as long as we understand this interdependence that we have with other people, we can use that interconnectedness. We can remember that, and only then we can actually flourish. There is an example of in the African culture of Ubuntu. Do you know what is Ubuntu?
Not a
Okay.
clue.
So there is this anthropologist who had gone to a remote village in Africa, and they did a they got some they did an experiment with the little children there, and they found, and they told the children that we have this huge bag of sweets which we are going to keep at the under the shade of that tree yonder there, and you have to run towards the tree, and whoever gets it reaches there first will just pick up all the sweets. Okay, and what these children would have done is that they all held hands and they ran to the sweets together, and then they took the sweets together and sat under the tree, laughing, joking, and sharing the sweets.
I love that story.
And the anthropologist was shocked and said, what is this? Why did you do this? So they just used one word, Ubuntu. Ubuntu in African language, Zulu. It means I am because you are.
I really
So
love that. That's really
we
lovely.
are, yeah. So if we realize this, then we have no choice but to develop the feelings, the qualities of altruism, of compassion, of gratitude, of empathy. We need to develop these qualities, and these qualities are developed. It's not difficult to develop them, but we need to have that bent of mind, where we develop these qualities. uh, I would like to end with an example here. This every person, all of us recognize that, and we love a person who helps, who has a friendly attitude, rather than somebody who is hostile. And even small babies recognize this. So they have done in the Yale University, Dr. Paul Bloom and his research team, they have done an experiment of small babies, 6 months to 10 months. They put them in a room and they showed them a video of a cartoon, where they showed a ball, like a largish ball with facial features painted on it, who's trying to climb up a steep incline. And there's another ball, which is a red ball, which is helping that ball to, go up that incline. And then they show a blue ball which is throwing that ball or shoving that ball so that the ball comes down, is not able to climb, but in fact tumbles down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And after that, they offered a choice, to these 6 months to 10 months children. They offered them a choice of red ball and a blue ball. And 90% of them, 9 out of 10, the kids, they chose the red ball and turned away from the blue ball.
Because it helps you go up.
Yes. So even they recognize a friendly attitude. Yeah. So if you want to flourish, this is what we need to do. If you want to have genuine happiness, this is what we need to do. Help our inner landscape and develop these qualities that will help us have better relationships with other human beings. Because ultimately, man is a social animal.
True. Very true. Thank you again. This has been really lovely. And like, we're very grateful to have you on with us. And I'm really looking forward to all the other interviews we've got lined up. So thank you for today.
Thank you, Ahilya.
Bye. Have a lovely evening.
Yeah, you too.